Andrew in Ohio. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I call in on the day all the Christians are calling in, of course.
That's
yeah,
okay.
I
That
about the God of the Bible.
Yeah, it makes it go super fast because that's our jammy jams. That's what we love to do.
Well, yeah, I believe in the God of the Bible. He is the Alpha and the Omega, and I believe. Well, that's what I believe.
Okay, why?
I believe the Bible's true. It has multiple authorship. It has from the Old Testament to the New Testament. It's I believe in the God of the Bible. He has proclaimed his word through. That's the only way he could reveal himself to us when we are separated from him.
Sure. Okay. So let's break this down a little bit because I want to determine whether or not those things are reliable. Because sounds like you're basing that on the idea that the Bible is accurately proclaiming things. Do you think Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
Absolutely.
They didn't.
How do you know that?
You can actually go to even some of the most fundamentalist Christian universities and find that the authorship for many of the books is unknown.
I actually believe that I had a Bible when I was a Christian. I think it might have even been a King James Version Bible, where in the kind of page before each gospel started, they actually explicitly said, this is canonically, historically said by the church to have been written by Matthew, but that might not be the case.
Right. And on top of that, so we don't know all of the authors. And so that really kind of hurts the credibility of that. Number two, when we're talking about authors in the Bible, I think that, would you agree that the Apostle Paul was a major player in writing books in the Bible?
Yes, and I could use Paul to prove that Luke wrote Luke.
Cool. So let's start with Paul. Was Paul there to see the miracles that Jesus did? Was Paul a disciple?
He had miracles in the book. Well, he had special revelation. He got special revelation from God during his conversion.
Okay, so did Paul ever meet Jesus?
Yes. Well, you're talking about before the resurrection? No.
I'm talking about at all. So the idea of Paul encountering a ghost is incredibly problematic. There are lots of people who say that they encounter ghosts, and there are lots of people who say that they have revelations from God. But that doesn't mean, and I'm really confident, Andrew, that you would not believe anyone that said that they had a revelation from God. Some people could be telling the truth. Some people would need to be lying, especially when we have accounts that conflict with each other. How would you tell the difference between somebody who actually had a revelation from God and someone who didn't?
Well, you're suggesting that Paul had a delusion, I'm assuming?
So I probably, if people want to know, look up The Road to Damascus and that whole thing. It really, honestly, where I'm going here is, how do we tell the difference, right? Let's say whatever happened. Because, I mean, Andrew, if you, let's say, I don't know, ate, some psychedelics and tripped out and you said, Eric, this was my experience, I will believe you and be like, cool, that was your experience. I don't think that maps to reality, but I absolutely think that, the chemicals in your brain and everything that was going on, like, you had the experience. It just doesn't map to what was really going on. You were probably just sitting in the room, drooling a little bit. And so the question isn't, calling them a liar, saying that they had the experience. The question is, does it map to reality? And so to bring that into the world that we're in, if somebody says they have revelation from God that says do X, and another person who says, I have revelation from God, and it says don't do X, both of them cannot be true. How do you tell the difference?
Well, I trust in what the text is telling me, if that makes sense.
No, the revelation is that they're not quoting the Bible. They're giving you revelation.
Paul did not establish Christianity. He, I guess, Paul is not the only reason we have Christianity today.
No, and we can get through that. But right now, I'm talking about Paul because Paul was a big player.
Well, he confirms that Luke was the beloved physician in Colossians, so he proves that that's another documentation that Luke wrote Luke. So we have multiple books of the Bible that talk about Luke.
So let's
that goes
keep,
before this.
Hold on.
There are so
Andrew,
many questions asked.
Yeah, Andrew. The question that is at the core of this is, if somebody were to say that today, we would be very skeptical, and I think rightfully so. When it comes to determining whether or not somebody was tripping out or actually experienced something that maps to reality, we don't have a good way of determining who's the liar or who is actually has the beat on the truth. And because of that, it's very, very difficult to take that. It's very difficult to take that for somebody who did it yesterday. And we're talking about someone who did it a little less than 2,000 years ago. 1,600? No, 1,400 years ago. Something like that.
Something like
We're
that.
talking about Paul?
Yeah. Now, go back to the Old Testament. Who wrote Exodus and Leviticus?
Moses. Moses wrote the first 5 books.
If Moses wrote those books, it talks about Moses' death. Did he come back as a zombie just to write the last part and make sure it was filled out?
No, Joshua did that.
Okay, so you said Moses wrote it. Is it one or the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
No. Well, Moses gave it to the priest. Think about this, Eric, before you say something. He gave it to the priest, and Joshua is the next book. And Joshua knew Moses, so it goes along with that.
Yeah, so you're saying that Joshua just happened to go back into Moses's writings just to finish that out for him. That sounds like fan fiction that you cannot substantiate. The fact is that there are so many holes in the Old Testament and New Testament. There are so many things that we would credit to, or that we wouldn't credit to people nowadays, that we're for some reason crediting to anonymous authors. A lot of these authors were anonymous. A lot of Christian scholars even, and non-Christian scholars have gone in and said, okay, some of these things were added, some of these things were changed. And even in evaluating the style of writing, you can see that a lot of stuff was added way after the fact. I mean, and before I pass it over to V, because V's done a lot of study on this, one more, because we're talking about Joshua. You know, the whole circling, blowing the horns and circling 3 times. What was the walls of Jericho?
Jericho, yes.
You know that story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it actually doesn't match up at the time that they were saying that the time frame doesn't match up. Jericho did not have walls at the time. The only reason it was referenced that way is because it was written so far after the fact that had turned into a city. And so it is historical fiction. It just is. And there's no way around that.
Well, on the Joshua, when the sun stayed in the air, that could have been I believe in miracles, but that it was probably something called a sun dog, or it's called a mock sun.
God
has shown this in Revelation outside the Bible.
I really don't give a crap about Revelation. I really don't give a crap about factual things that are stated in the Bible just because they're in the Bible. There are things that are not true, and there are things that are.
Joshua, you were criticizing the book. Hey.
Yes.
You're criticizing the book of Joshua. I gave you evidence for the book of Joshua.
No, I specifically the walls of Jericho.
Go ahead. Yeah, what about them?
Yeah, they weren't there at the time. It was historical fiction that was written far after the fact.
We're talking about Paul, and then we're going 1,500 years before
because I'm showing you lots of holes in the Bible that should, if you are honestly listening, and I hope that you investigate this later, should seriously make you reconsider this strong conviction of an inerrant Bible. But I'm going to pass it to V because I've been on this for way too long.
Andrew, you still with us?
I was going to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that, Andrew. So I'm going to circle back a little bit. So it sounds like you are pretty well convinced that the Bible is, in fact, would you say it's inerrant, infallible, both, either or?
Okay. Well, I don't know what you mean by that, but if you mean that God, that the Bible is a history book, yes.
Okay, so you believe that everything in the Bible is true and the inspired word of God?
Correct.
Okay. How did you come to that conclusion?
Through evidence.
Oh, cool. Which evidence?
Of what? The Trinity God, or what? What do you mean?
Well, I asked...
We can go...
We can go whichever direction you want. I would love to get the most convincing piece of evidence that convinced you that the Bible is true. Because if it's convincing, I want to know.
The universe had a beginning. That's Genesis 1:1. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that those two things seem to be similar. Are you saying that every book that says their universe had a beginning is true throughout?
Well, if the Bible was lying, it would probably be wrong in the first sentence if it was written by primitive men, if that's what you believe.
No.
Well, no, actually, I don't like the whole, like, oh, goat herders, like, argument. I think that that's reductionist and stupid and probably also racist. But my concern here is that I can say, okay, in Tale of Two Cities, right? It starts out, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. There at one point, probably, for some person, existed a best time and a worst time. Does that make the Tale of Two Cities true?
If it's talking about the French Revolution, then that book is true, yes.
Okay, so it's talking about the French Revolution, and this is a good comparison, right? There are some similarities. It is based in a historical time period that may have, correlation to reality. Do you think that the characters were real in Tale of Two Cities?
I probably spark noted that book in high school. I don't even remember.
Well, I'll give you a spoiler. It is fiction, so it is actually, the characters were not real, although it was a really gorgeous book. You should read it if you've only sparks noted. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that it sounds like your argument is that if the first line of the book is true, the rest of the book is true?
And vice versa. If you don't believe the first line of the book, then you're not going to believe the rest of the book. And then you're going to find ways to criticize Paul. We went to the New Testament, the Old Testament. It's been an entertaining call, to say the least.
Well, and there are a lot of places to go, and I hope you go back and watch this. I'm holding the Book of Eric. The Book of Eric, it says 2 + 2 = 4. Do you believe that is true?
2 + 2 = 4, yes. But
okay,
I don't
it
know
also says that Eric created the universe.
Well, that's not true.
Okay, but it says 2 + 2 = 4 first. So obviously, that's fine. See, you're taking this super black and white. No. What you're doing is you're taking this super black and white view that a liar lies all of the time, and so a lying book would only have lies, and that is ridiculous, Andrew.
But I want everyone who's listening to Bart Ehrman and stuff like that, just make sure this is a true statement I'm about to say. No anonymous copies of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John have been found. Not one. One. That's a
go fact. Back and
you questioned that at the beginning of the call. You questioned that at the beginning of the call. You questioned the authorship, and I gave you evidence that Colossians 4:14, that Luke is mentioned by Paul. I just confirmed Paul and Luke's relationship together. Can use different types of. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead and do the investigation. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Call us back.
No anonymous copies have been found. Hallelujah. Amen. Thank you for taking my call.
That's quite the sign off.
Well, sometimes I think that it's I think sometimes I take that as oh, you're totally used to saying that as a, have a good day kind of thing. That sounded like a fuck you, so fuck you back.
That didn't sound to me so much as a fuck you as a oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But we do kind of know what we're talking about. So like I get that. Here's the deal.
Yeah, V, was I wrong there specifically about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
Well, no, like most biblical scholars would agree with you, and I would be very curious to know where he was getting his information from. But the point here is that you can get away with saying these kinds of things to a group of people who already have the same preconceptions as you, who already believe what you believe, and who already share a lot of those suppositions, right? And you can sound like you know what you're talking about because you're saying the right words to that group of people. A good rule of thumb when calling into a show like this is to make sure that if we ask you a question that goes off of your script, you're able to follow through with that and actually follow us along, because that's going to decide whether or not we can actually have a productive conversation, right? We're not going off of a script. We don't want you to go off a script. We want to have a back and forth and figure out where each other stand and maybe come to an agreement about some things. That's really, really hard to do if you expect us to just allow you to go on your script and not ask clarifying questions. So fair warning for people who call in. That's my approach, at least.
Yeah. And by the way, V, when did those books get the name Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? What were they originally called? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
No, they were unnamed.
They were unnamed. When did they get their names?
Is this a quiz? I don't know.
Oh, no. We talked about it. It was a council. I forget which one though. Anyway, live chat. Correct us.
I don't think that's actually the Council of Nicaea.
No, not Nicaea.
Okay.
It was anyway. Correct us in the live chat, please. I want to make sure that we get that right.
We should thank patrons.
Is it already time?
It's 2:10.
Oh my gosh, we have so many more callers, and we've got really, really great callers today. Okay. While I reload this, I do want to say some people were saying, "Oh my gosh, why did you take the callers that you took, especially in the last video or last weekend?" We took literally every caller that called in. If you're upset about which callers we take, don't think that we're screening through hundreds of them. We need more callers. So that said, is what it is. All right, you ready for our top 5 patrons?
Yeah, let's do this.
Our top 5 patrons are Eric Tweet, who has been a top patron for such a long time. Eric, thank you. CJ Dennis. Have we had CJ Dennis on before?
I don't think so. Do you know CJ was the name of my first cat and also the name of the objectively best character in the West Wing. So I like CJ.
We might need to fight later.
Oh, come on. Who?
Sam.
What? No.
I love Sam. He's got a heart of gold.
I would accept Toby.
Toby?
Absolutely. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Okay. Tweet. CJ Dennis. Dingleberry Jackson is in 3rd.
Nice.
Desert Heathen. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And Bethany P. But I think we've got 2 more after 6 and 7. Number 6 is Marry Me V. And number 7.
Wow, hanging in there. Nice.
Is Balaam's donkey.
Hey, honestly, like $50 is the most I've been paid with a proposal. So like, we'll see where this goes.
So whether you are a top patron or if you're just helping a little bit, every little bit helps. Trust me. As much as we appreciate our top patrons, if we only had 5 large patrons, if one of them needed to duck out for totally understandable reason, we'd be in trouble. It is a lot of the lower end patrons who are able to give us that stability. So if you want to support us, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. And Eric Tweet, for those in the live chat, I heard back from Eric Tweet and they said, no, that is the name. That is not saying that I need to tweet. So